Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the April 7th meeting of the Woods Hole Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket Steamship Authority. As we get underway, I'd like to inform everyone that Sean Driscoll, the authority's communications director, is making an audio and video recording of today's meeting. Is there anyone else making an audio recording of today's meeting? If so, please identify yourself. If you are joining virtually, please press the raise your hand icon on the Zoom dashboard, or if you are joining by phone, by pressing *9 on your keypad, and when you are recognized, please state your name for the record.
It's Louisa Huffstadter with the Vineyard Gazette recording.
Thank you, Louisa.
Funky Sonu from the MB Times.
Thank you.
David Dandridge.
Thank you. Is that it?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, that's all I see.
Okay. Pursuant to Section 20 of Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021 as amended, all board members are participating remotely in today's meeting because their physical attendances today would be unreasonably difficult. Board members are participating in the meeting by the Zoom video conferencing app, and all members will be clearly audible to each other. As a result of these members' remote participation in this meeting, any and all votes taken today by the members shall be by roll call vote. The only item on our agenda is procurement. I'll hand this over to Mr. Davis.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for accommodating us today. So from the conference room at the administration building, it's myself, Mark Rosen, Treasurer Comptroller, Terrence Keneally, General Counsel, and Mark Higgins, Chief Operating Officer. I don't see the other attendees, but I believe that Mark Amundsen is probably on this as well. First item we have here is a request for a vote of the members to authorize the general manager to award contract number 19-2022, motor vessel conversion, freight deck extensions, associated machinery overhauls, dry docking and overhaul services for 2 OSV vessels to the lowest eligible responsible bidder, which is Alabama Shipyard LLC of Mobile, Alabama, for a total contract price of $13,599,704 per vessel, or a combined $27,199,408. As the board is well aware, we purchased the HOS North Star, which is to be renamed the MV Barnstable, and we purchased the HOS Lodestar, which is to be renamed the Aquina in 2022. The vessels were purchased were offshore supply vessels that require conversions in order to operate as a passenger vehicle ferry, and in accordance with the United States Coast Guard Subchapter H. It also requires machinery overhauls, a statutory dry dock, and overhaul services, as the vessels have not been in operation since 2015. So a short list of some of the items that we're dealing with will be modifying the vessel lengths. We'll be modifying the stern so that way they're able to dock at our transfer bridges. We have to add new subdivisions in the bulkheads. We need to add new tonnage bulkheads in order to get under 1,600 gross tons. We need to increase the width of the vessels by adding some sponsons. We're going to be doing other things like fuel tanks and passenger seating, HVAC, and the like. So we've been working with naval architects and marine engineering firm Kurloff and Associates to develop the drawings and specifications and what will it take to reactivate these vessels. Kurloff and Associates deal extensively with OSV conversions. And you may recall that Kurloff and Associates was the naval architect for the engineering on the MV Katama, Gayhead, and Sankey when we did the conversions on those vessels. So in addition to the drawings and the specifications for that, they also provide some of the cost estimation for this project, as well as some of it was developed in-house. As you know, we received 2 bids when we opened up the package. There was some significant differences from what our initial estimates had been, and just to highlight a few of those. The first one is the towing, dry dock, and undocking of the vessel. We had estimated that to be about $30,000. It ends up being $1,570,000, almost $571,000. And part of that is because of this particular shipyard, in order to perform the dry docking, needs to be transferring the vessels via some self-propelled modular transports to a secondary barge and then onto the land. So, Sean, can you share the presentation on that?
Yep, will do. Can you all see this?
Yeah.
So on the first slide, this is a transfer that they recently did down at the shipyard, and you'll see the area circled in blue. There's some wheels there, and those are the self-propelled transport modular transports. Next slide. And you'll see what they do is they have it on a barge and they offload it onto the land. Those wheels all independently articulate. They also can adjust the height of those units. The next slide. Just to show that, you know, the plan is that they'll have those units running the entire length of the vessel. And next. And then this is a unit. So this particular unit weighed 6,000 tons and was transferred in the method that they intend on doing for our vessels, which don't approach that weight. This system is capable of doing it. The yard has performed 6 transfers in this manner for vessels, but they also were doing they previously had done some new construction, and that was part of it. That in terms of launching the vessels, they had heavy lift experts, but so that's in part explains some of the significant difference between what our initial estimate was and that. But not to say that's the only one. The blasting and coating, we had about $525,000 as our estimate. It's coming in at $985,000. Temporary services, so that's through while the vessel is at the dock, power and things like that. We had just under 14,000. It's coming in at 354,000. And the list kind of goes on. The removal of the mid body, we had at 410,000. It's coming in at 777,000. So there's about 10 items that account for about a $5.4 million difference from what we originally estimated. And I know the board had asked us to come back with a detailed update on that. We've been concentrating on trying to finalize this contract and getting the details done. So we're not prepared at this time for this meeting, but we expect that we'll have something at the normally scheduled April meeting to discuss that. So in terms of this, we had sent out the package to 32 different yards. We did only get the 2 bids. And so through negotiation process and going back and forth, we've come to a new bid price of the $13,577,704 for these vessels. But in your packet, you'll also see that as part of that, some of the items that were in the original bid, we're going to be undertaking as owner furnished equipment and services. The estimate that we have for those items comes to $1 million per vessel. Some of that is spares that we need to have on hand once the vessels are in operations. And also in your packet, we developed a capital expenditure status report, which details the cost of, what we spent already for the vessels, for the design and engineering going forward, these construction contracts, the owner furnished. We also need to, as part of this project, it's going to be a year-long project. So we need to be having people on site, project management and quality control people. Our intent is to contract those services from marine safety consultants, and we received pricing from them on their personnel to oversee this project on our behalf. And we've also included a contingency here of 25%, which is in line with what dry dock contracts, a window there. So at this point, there's a window to dock these vessels starting the week of the 17th. If we miss that window, the vessels won't be dry docked until sometime in June, which would, then add, a couple months to our project timeline. The plan now is to get if the board so approves this, the first vessel, the North Star, which would be the Barnstable by that time, would be delivered on or about April 7th, 2024, and the Lodestar, which would then be the Equina, would be April 30th of 2024. So they follow each other by 3 to 4 weeks in terms of it. Which in terms of we'll need to be sailing these vessels up from the Gulf, and they'll need to be doing training. So that schedule is working, on our end, and be able to have these vessels in place for the 2024 season. So at this point, the staff is recommending that the members vote to authorize the general manager to award contract number 19-2022, motor vessel conversion, freight deck extensions, associated machinery overhauls, dry docking and overhaul services for 2 OSV vessels to the eligible and responsible bidder, Alabama Shipyard LLC of Mobile, Alabama, for a total contract price of $13,599,704 per vessel, or $27,199,408 combined. The staff further recommends that the members also authorize the general manager to take all necessary and appropriate actions to execute and carry out the agreements with Alabama Shipyard LLC and to fulfill the authority's obligations thereunder. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are there questions from the board, or does somebody want to make a motion and then take questions, or what's the pleasure of the board?
What's the chair's pleasure? I do have questions, but would you like a motion out there first?
I think we'll take a motion first, and then we'll do questions.
Well, then I'll make the motion. Oh, sorry.
I'll second it.
So just to be clear, that was a motion to approve. Is that what that
Correct.
means? Okay. Okay, questions, fire away. Oh, Mr. Malkin, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Rennie. Bob, 3 questions, because I'm, like all of us, still having sticker shock. given the original numbers that we had. So question one is, can we reduce the scope of the work that we're planning on doing on these vessels and do some of that work further down the road? Question two, can we stage out things we're doing over a period of time with the two and then the third vessel? And then question three, and we discussed this before, is there an opportunity to not cut two of the vessels and cut only one and thereby save money, and then do cutting if we deem necessary later? Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to pick up the first question of the reduced scope. We have done that to bring the initial cost down to 13.5 million. There is, at this point, we have to bring the vessel back into statutory Coast Guard requirements, in that there are many things we have to do. Environmental oils have to be updated. It's a lot of conversion costs in that. So right now we are at the reduced scope that you have just inquired on. The second one on consolidation, we have taken the first two and done extensive research and found out right before they put them into cold stack that they had performed all the overhauls on the main and auxiliary engines and also on the shafting. We have reduced the scope of the work as a result of that consolidation. And I'll leave the third question to Bob. I think he has the best view on lengths.
Thank you, Mark.
So, and I think, another piece of your questions was about the third vessel. So, and I didn't touch on that. As you know, this is for the first two vessels to be done. The contract also has the invitation for bids also included the option for the third vessel. We'll be working with Alabama Shipyard going forward on what the scope of that project would be and what pricing it would entail. And then coming back at a future meeting to the board on our recommendation regarding the third vessel. But at this point, we don't have, there's some different requirements on the third vessel than the other two, because as Mark pointed out, that the other two have been more recently dry docked than this one. So we need to develop that package. In terms of your question regarding modifying the vessels for the length, I think one of the big things here is the flexibility that these will allow us if they're all the same size. And yes, we'd like not to have to cut them, but I think by not doing that on a couple of them, we end up having a number of vessels that can only be used on the Vineyard Run and not able to be used on the Nantucket Run. And then the operating characteristics, while they probably won't be much different, they will be somewhat different for the operator standpoint. Where our crews move from vessel to vessel at different times of the year, that would be a concern. So our recommendation is to have these, regrettably, all the same smaller size, than not performing the cut. And some of it, like the tonnage bulkheads and the watertight bulkheads, that would have to be done regardless.
Mr. Jeffrey.
So I have some questions as well as comments. And first, just starting off, that I think you've put the board in a very tough position, given the colossal failure in terms of the estimate for converting these boats. And now we're left with, what is the most financially prudent thing to do for the Steamship Authority, and not in the best of circumstances. So a lot of questions that I've been getting are, have we looked at selling these vessels, putting them back out on the market and starting all over again? And the cost of that. I know that you and I, and I'm sure with other board members have talked, that going out for the rebid process won't save us money and most likely will cost us money. But has that been a consideration? I know that we have a end of life fleet with the freight boats, but I think that question needs to be answered. I also want to know, where are we with the town of Barnstable in terms of the length of the freight vessels? Measured twice, cut once. I don't want to see a change order for the vessels because we didn't resolve the issue with Barnstable, or we get an agreement late with Barnstable as to the length of the vessels. I'm looking at this as that really you've negotiated a $16 million conversion contract, presuming that we're going to have 20% contingency and change order. That seems to be what's normally happening now. And I guess my further comment would be that in looking at the proposed contract, I would find it helpful if the board received both the progress schedules that are set forth in Article 1, Section J in real time, as well as the progress reports in Article 3, Section A, the progress reports in real time, so that we can be on top of potential change orders and costs throughout this process. And I'll mute myself to hear your answer.
Okay, so yes, we're not pleased either that we put the board in such a position, and as I've said, we missed this by a wide margin, and we intend on going back and looking at how this was done. However, part of this being is that as you attended the Ferries Now conference the other day, you heard from Mr. Waterhouse that it is a phenomenon that seems to be happening nationwide at this point. But regardless of that, we do feel that these vessels remain a very viable avenue for us to be able to modernize our fleet. The vessels that they're intended to be using, as you're well aware, are they're 42 years old at this point, and we've been spending more and more money on chasing items on those, and that will continue in that regard. Regarding the condition with the town of Barnstable, so I guess the answer to that is that we weren't looking to we did not consider an option to try to be selling these vessels. The fact that they were part of it is that we when we were originally purchasing them would be to Hornbeck was looking to not allow us to resell those to any company in the energy field. So that was one stipulation, but we got past that because our intent all along is to be using these as ferries. Regarding the town of Barnstable, we have an upcoming meeting with them to determine whether there be any reconsideration of the vessel length. The agreement that we're reaching with Alabama Shipyard includes us having 30 days from the time that they take the vessels to give them the final word on what the where the cut, how much of the cut needs to be. There's included in the proposal is the additional cost of about $105,000 if the cut is less, because there's additional steel work that needs to be done and tanks that need to be removed, but that would be an amendment to the contract as opposed to a change order. So we're addressing that in the contract, and we hope to, within that time period, be able to get some resolution as to what the final length is going to be. And then as for those articles, without jumping into that, the capital status report that's presented as part of this, our intent is to be providing an updated version of that each month to the board and the Port Council, to be letting them know on the progress. And of course, we'll be providing monthly updates to both the Port Council and the board as to the progress on the versus the contract. So.
And Bob, what I'm requesting is, in addition to that, I know that there are weekly schedule report, as well as then progress reports that come in terms of invoicing. And what I'm asking for is that gets distributed to the board as raw data prior to our meeting, instead of getting a board meeting packet the Friday before a Tuesday meeting, so that we have enough time to review that. Because I mean, this is a large undertaking.
Yeah, understood, and we can make those arrangements.
Other questions from the board? I have a question regarding whether the steamship has selected a project manager to oversee this or not, and what the thoughts are on that. I know that, well, I wasn't around for the previous freight boat conversion, so I don't know how that was handled, but I've been involved in some other projects where we did have project managers and so forth. So I'm just curious how that's going to be handled.
Yeah, so previously we did most of the project management in-house, using whether it was one of our captains or one of our engineers. But for this project, because of the scope of the project, particularly with two vessels going on at the same time, we've gotten a proposal from Marine Safety Consultants for a project manager who's worked on similar projects, some of which include cutting a cruise ship in half and lengthening it and the like. And that would be, we're proposing that we'd engage Marine Safety Consultants for that individual, as well as to engage them for a quality control individual as well. We will then, of course, supplement those people with some of our own people from time to time, including, we'll have port engineers making periodic visits. And as the vessels progress, we'll be assigning the vessel chief engineer as well as the vessel's senior captain, as it gets closer to a completion time when for that. So we've included that as part of the SSA personnel expense that we anticipate having. Granted, with two vessels, it ends up being split between the two, which I think is an advantage there. Actually, is thinking about it, we didn't phrase this for a separate motion. That would be professional services from Marine Safety Consultants, but if the board wanted to consider, whether they wanted to vote on that as an approach for us to be managing this project, I have no objections to that. So.
Other questions from the board? So regarding the timeline, you had said that hopefully, this will be done a year from now. Is that, how does that work with training on the vessels for crews and getting ready for the, you know, the summer coming up and all that? Is that a good, you know, are we good with that timeline?
Yeah, actually, that timeline works, provided we're able to get the boats transferred and up on the dock by the middle part of this month. It would work well because typically that point we have some of the individuals that take some time off in the wintertime are coming back. We're starting to ramp up with some other crews, so our intent from the beginning, and you know, it still is that you know, we assign crews to be bringing these vessels up, but we'd also be wanting to, once they get up here, there's a period of time that we need to be completing the outfitting of them. We need to be having training of our crews. We need to have the local Coast Guard come and do inspections and sea trials of the vessels. So when we leave Alabama, our anticipation is that we'll have a temporary COI to sail up to Fairhaven and then subject to the local inspectors. So I think if we get the first one, that beginning part of April, we can get it up here and start getting people trained, and then send another group down at the end of the month and get the boat up here. And that early summer or late spring schedule runs from essentially the middle of May to somewhere around the 20th of June. Off the top of my head, I don't have it in front of me. So we should be able to get them crewed up and trained, and all the inspections done, and get the vessels on the run in time for the summer season at this schedule.
Mr. Malkin? You're muted.
Thank you. Sorry about that. You'd think after all these years, I've learned how to do this sort of Zoom thing. I'd be interested in hearing from Mr. Jones what his view is on the subject.
You're muted, Bob.
Still muted, Bob.
Did I unmute?
Yes, you did.
You're good now.
I had to go on my cell phone. I'll be damned if I know what's wrong with my two computers here, and I couldn't get into you. Anyways, you know, we're kind of, you know, in a bind to go ahead. And I think, you know, I hate putting things off and making different routes at this point here. So I'm, you know, just say, well, let's just go, you know, lick our wounds and be done with it. I still don't understand why we got so much out of phase. But, you know, listening to John Waterhouse, as Bob said, and things like that of what's happening in the industry, I don't know how much of this pricing, you know, was affected by that. I really don't, but that'll come out with a wash. For myself, I think we need to go ahead. The town of Barnstable will be meeting with them Monday morning. I don't know how it's going to come out. I suspect in the end, and I shouldn't say this, I won't project, but I think it'll work out all right. The hearing we had was something that never in my life would I anticipated, but it happened, and you know, we've got to move forward, and I think in the end, you know, things will be okay. So other than that, I'm just kind of stymied here. I don't even have the words. you know, for how far off we are. But, you know, I know things happen. And I know one thing, on one committee that I was on, who was the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, was the chairman, and we had, you know, a major screw up. And his words were, because we started talking about it again after it was resolved, and he said, you know, once you've done it, you know, lick your wounds, go beyond, and forget it. You just can't redo it. And I think that's where we're at now. So I'm going to stick to those words and move forward.
Okay. Thanks, Bob.
Any other comments or questions from the board? Okay, then I think we're ready for a vote. We'll take a roll call vote on this. All in favor?
Jones, aye.
Jeffrey, aye.
Malcolm, I.
Randy, aye.
Tierney, I.
Okay, that is unanimous.
Thank you.
Any other old or new business? Mr. Malcolm?
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to say I'm looking forward to our next meeting. I'm looking forward to the report on the audit of how this rock and a hard place materialized and what we can learn from that going forward. And I did listen to Mr. Waterhouse from Elliott Bay very carefully to this. And I'd also look forward at our next meeting to a presentation on the impact of this capital expense on the other capital projects that we have lined up. So I look forward to seeing those two things at the next meeting. Thank you.
Mr. Jeffrey?
Just to follow up with Mr. Malcolm's points, I too am looking forward to that, and not to micromanage from the board. So I will only make a suggestion to you, Bob. I think it would be helpful, now that we have our new COO on board, that he takes a look or runs this audit, so we have someone who wasn't involved in the estimate take a look kind of from an outside perspective, now that he's inside, as to how we failed in this matter.
All right.
Okay, is there any public comment?
Don't see any.
Okay, not seeing any public comment. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
I'll
Second.
second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor by roll call.
Jones, aye.
Jeffrey, aye.
Malcolm, I.
Randy, aye.
Tierney, I.
Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.
Thank you, staff.
Thank you.
Thank you, staff. Thank you all.